Hello, everybody, and welcome to Business Rules. Patrick van Zandvoort presentate business rule in a moment. Patrick can introduce himself. He has made business rule, so it's his product, his baby. So welcome, Patrick. Let the
Yeah,
show begin. Let's see what you
yeah.
can do.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Yes, I ported the business rules to a Uniconta standard, and I'm glad to show you guys. I'm a developer from the Netherlands. So first of all, yeah, what are business rules? Business rules are rules or functions that allows us to change Uniconta application logic without the need of plugins. So we can implement customer processes faster. We can use it for data validation, we can manipulate records, or we can change user interface elements. That's typically where business rules are used for. I've shared a couple of links with you guys, which are on the screen. One is to the user manual, and there will be a sample download for a business rule function plugin later on. So you can write your own custom functions for the business rules. So not the rules themselves, but what to do with a rule. I've set up a small agenda. I will show you guys on how to enable them, the screen basics, and we will create 3 examples just to get you going. So for starters, business rules need to be enabled in the configure application. It's on the right-hand side under additional functions. There's business rules. Once you enable this, the business rule will become available under the tools menu. And yeah, that is very straightforward. Let's create a new business rule. This is the main editor screen, which allows us to choose a table you want to apply the rule to. The table selected will automatically be the user table variant. So if you designed the table to have extra fields, it will automatically become available here. You do not need to choose the user version. Also, the user tables are in this list as well. So you can use business rules on standard tables, but also on your own tables. For my examples, I will be using the debtor client, as everybody knows that. We have 2 script types. We have C# and we have Uniconta script. Uniconta script is used in calculated fields. In my examples, I will mainly use C#. People know C#. There are a couple of triggers available. We have the trigger none. Obviously, the trigger, the rule will not be triggered automatically, but a rule that has no trigger can be used to be triggered by another rule. So you can basically forward the event to another business rule, keeping the business logic compact. There is a page open, executes the rule on open. We can add a button to the ribbon on the top, and we have a couple of CRUD operations like insert, update, delete, and upsert. Upsert is a combination of insert and update. So if you want a rule to be executed both on inserting and updating, upsert is your defined choice. We have the fields check. The fields check is executed just before a CRUD operation. We'll have an example on that later. We have the property changed, which is triggered whenever a field is changed by the user, or we have the menu click. Menu click is different from button, whereas button is also adding something to the ribbon, and menu clicked is triggered when a default button is clicked from Uniconta. And there is a row changed that allows us to execute a rule whenever the user scrolls through the grid. And we can have a old and new row in there. Whenever we select an option, extra options will become available for the type of trigger you used. For button, we have, for instance, an image we will show on the button and a caption. You can select the record you want to use and in which group you want to place it. More on that later when we create our example rules. You can group the rules all together. So we can have like, these are all the debtor related rules, or these are all the, I don't know, invoicing related rules, whatever. A comment helps you identify the rule. As you can see, this rule is disabling fields. There is also an option to run the rule asynchronous versus synchronous. I think 9 out of 10 times the rule will run synchronous because you want to do something to the screen or the record directly. But say you have a heavy operation, querying a web service or doing heavy database related operations, you might want to choose to run the rule asynchronous. There's a fairly technical change in there, so probably only for developers to do this. Okay, then the next step in this screen is the columns section or the functions section. Whenever you select a record here, the columns will be shown under the fields node, as well as the user-defined fields. So if I change this to creditor, you'll see different fields pop up, and same goes for user tables. Also holds the system fields and the reference fields. So if we go to the debtor, for instance, we have our group and we have a field called auto number. And you'll see that if I double click this, the text to get the value of this field is automatically pasted into the editor window. We can search here for columns and functions as well, so that's easy to remember. And we also have, I will show a couple more. We also have additional properties we can use in the functions, like change property name or the page name or the table name, etc. The functions are grouped per section, like data. So what if we want to query some records? We can use the query by name. What if we want to insert a record? Stuff like that. We have page-related functions, loads and loads of functions. Use the search function on top. There is some documentation on the right-hand side explaining what it does. And also the user plugin functions will end up in this tree as well. So if you register a user function, it will show up in this window. And obviously, if you search, you'll also be able to search the user function in here. One more thing, there is the option to double click, so you get the reference to the field, which is account in this case. But if you want to pass the name of the field to the function, there is an alternate option to hold the shift key and double click to insert the name of the field. So if I hold the shift key, I'll get account instead of rec.account. Then we have the template tab. I've composed a couple of go-to business rule templates. I'm very interested if you guys have any more typical stuff you do on each customer or each implementation. Yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very, very interested in more of these. One of the go-to things in the Netherlands is creating a follow-up activity if a record is inserted or updated. Same rules apply here. If you double click, it will be added as text and you can change the code to whatever you want. Yeah, that's that. There are a couple of more. Yeah, search and play around, I'd say, and you'll find something nice. We also have a performance window built in to track how many times a rule is executed, how long a certain function has run. Say the user complains, hey, my page open is slow. Can you please help me determine the problem? If you enable this grid will automatically be updated on the rules that are executed and how long it took. Let's just keep this window open for now so we can see later the executions. Okay. Yeah, this is it for the function and the edit window. So let's create our first business rule. I've made an example of a business rule for opening a user table. Let's start simple, as always nice. Again, we use the adapter client for this. The trigger will be a button, and we'll call it open cars. We'll run it synchronous because it's not heavy. We'll select a nice image, mileage. You can say show my cars. Here you can select which record you want to pass for buttons. So you can say, okay, this button is only for this row. It is for the current selection of the grid, or I want to have all the records. And in a future version, there will also be an option here called visible rows to show or to pass the records that are shown in the grid to the function. If amount of records is more than one, so if it's a list of more than one, each record will be processed by its own. So we loop through the selected records and each record will be passed into a single business rule execution. The group is a way to set up or tell Uniconta, hey, I want it in this one, and that one. It starts counting by 0. So if I want it in the first group, just leave it as 0. And if I want it there, you can say, okay, I want it in the second group. Sometimes the amount of buttons for business rules is too much to fit in the screen. So you can also have a tab page caption, which adds a new tab page next to home with the caption you fill in here. I'm going to use a template for this. Double click so you can see it is pre-filled with user table name and a page title, and automatically the record is passed as a variable as well. I'm going to open the cars table and I'm going to give it a nice title called cars 4. Then I'm going to add the name field. To the title as well. Validate helps you to see if the C# code that is written is okay. If it's not, you'll get the information what is missing, what is wrong, as well as a line and column, which can also be seen on the bottom right corner if you select a character in the editor. So for now, this is good. I go save and exit. And whenever you change the business rules, you need to refresh the rule cache. So a page is opened and the rule is fetched from the cache for performance reasons. When you refresh the rule cache, that cache is refreshed. However, it is not refreshed for pages that are already open. So my advice is to just close everything after you change the rule, like so, and you'll see that the rule cache is automatically refreshed when you close this window. So now if I go to my customer screen, you'll see that in the second group, show my cars button is added. So if I have my furniture house, I click and I see a nice Seat Leon. Also the title is updated. And if I select the small alley school, you'll see that I see the cars for the alley school. If I go to edit, I'll have the same button in here as well because it's on the adapter client and also on the view details. More on the pages themselves, so later. So I'll show you how to add a button to a single page only later on. I'll go with the second one, is validating a phone number on a record field check. So I'm going to add a new one. I'll again have the adapter clients, and this is going to be the fields check. Maybe you don't know which field you want to use. There are a couple ways to do this. We can obviously search here. I want to see the phone, and I see delivery mobile and the normal phone, but there is also a change made to the F12 screen. So if you press F12 on the window, This page details window has been changed as well, allowing us to see all the ribbon commands, but also all the fields. So I can search phone here, and it'll show me the label of the field as well as the field name. Now I know phone is a petty example, but just to give you an idea on how to find the field. There is also a extra tab showing us the business rules that are active for this page. So we can see which rules are on this page and what triggers them, as well as a option to go to the performance window, which shows us that we've pressed the button twice already. But that's cool. But anyway, so we have the phone field, and now I want to validate if it is a valid phone number. I've added a function called isValidPhone. There is also one for isValidEmail. It does a regular expression for the developers in the audience that validates the phone number or the email. There is also a regex function directly wherein you can just put the input and the expected pattern, and it'll give you a true or false in return. But for now, let's stick with isValidPhone. And we know the field is phone, and the example already filled it in for us, so that's nice. So what we can do is say, okay, if isValidPhone, we can do something, and we can do something if it's not. There is a little hint text in the bottom explaining to us what we need to do to make this function succeed. So we're gonna return null if there is no errors, just like if you write a user plugin, or we can return a text that is presented to the user what is wrong. So let's stick with a text for now. I'm gonna change the function to is not, the exclamation mark, and we can say, okay, if it's not a valid phone, we're gonna return phone for debtor. Is invalid. Like so. And otherwise, if it's okay, we're just gonna return no. Validate is always handy here to see if we've written correct code. And now we can save the rule, check. Save and exit. Then we go close everything so we know the rule is cached and the window is closed. And if we reopen the customer and we do edit and we say, I don't know, something like this, save, it'll show a message, phone for debtor, furniture is invalid. And if we change it and we save it, it is functioning again. And the same rule applies here, as long as it's a debtor record, fields check is run. So if I do edit all, I do the same here and same there, I press save, it'll tell me that the Hillary school is invalid. I can change it, save, small alley school is also invalid, save it and continue. So that's the fields check. Maybe the fields check itself is a little bit too late. So let's see if we can change it to property changed. So we get a message as soon as I change the field. It's more user-friendly and is a little bit different from the fields check. So what I need to do is to change this to property changed. And you'll see that a new subsection is open here at the bottom, which allows me to tell Uniconta, okay, which fields do you want this rule to be triggered on? Well, let's take the phone, for example. But it can be multiple fields. You can select all of them. You can also use a asterisk for this, so it triggers on all fields. I'm not sure why you want to do that, but if you're doing this with more than one field and you want to know which menu button is used, you can use the rule trigger properties. In this case, the changed property name. So if I click more than one field, I can check the property name against something else to see which property has been changed. If I validate this now, I will get an error because the property changed does not expect something to be returned. It is a signal only, so there is no return value for property changed. What we can do is show a message to the user. Could be an error or a warning. Let's stick with error for now. And I can say, okay, this is my error. And then we do this like so. And then if we validate, it says it's okay. Save and exit. Again, close everything so we know everything is refreshed. Customer, edit. And then if I have my phone, I change it, I'll get a warning message. The phone for debtor is, error message. The phone for debtor is invalid. So that's how property changed is implemented. This does not block saving to the database. So keep that in mind whenever you do a property changed. Okay. You see as well the performance window shows some nice features. And then we're going to do the last one, and that is to replace values in a dropdown. One of the things we want to do in Uniconta is to have a subset of options available in a dropdown instead of all the options. So what we're going to do is add a new business rule, again for the debtor clients. We can alter the lookups on row change as well. I'm going to use page open for now. And I say, okay, replace payments values on the lookup. Also have a example for this. So if I double click, two things are happening. The payment term client is queried in the background, and we are going to replace the lookup of payment with a subset of the records where the cash discount percentage equals 0. If we look up the function in the window here, we can see, okay, what is the function expecting? Can I make this smaller? Yeah. What is the function expecting and what is it returning? So in this case, as long as you have a object, can be an anonymous object that has a key string and a key name in there, we show these values. As an example, I've added some fruit, but for our case, we will use the payment terms instead. So if I do this, save and close, again, close everything so we know it's okay. Customer, and then if I go edit and I go to payment, you'll see a subset. Obviously, you don't know what the values are, so let me show in here my terms of payment. So this one, the N14 is excluded in the payment dropdown. Yeah, so these are just a couple of examples what we can use business rules for. Yeah, the possibilities are endless, of course. So yeah,